Shane Van Gisbergen is the greatest race car driver in the fucking world.
I mean, you're not getting any argument on this podcast.
Dude, he finished 6th in this race. Okay, you argued with me in the car earlier when I was trying to explain this, but he never lost position. He never fell back really significantly. He maybe lost 1 or 2 positions, normal fluctuation of the race, but he started 23rd. He ran 23rd for a while. Then he ran 20th for a while. Then he led 15th through 18th for a while. And then he ran 12th, 13th. And then at the end of the damn race, he dodged all the carnage. The big wreck happened with Chandler Smith and John Hunter Nemechek. And literally, I watched 7 cars. I counted them. 7 cars past Shane Van Gisbergen as that wreck was happening. Every single one of those 7 cars ended up in the wreck. Bro is like, he's using 100% of his brain when he's in a race car. The dude is something different. And that restart he had at the end was incredible. Bro got a top 10. He had Daytona, Daytona. He finished 12th. Still a respectable finish. Blew up in Vegas, but has a 3rd and a 6th.
Has not finished worse than 12th, I would argue.
I mean, he did not finish Vegas, so you're correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. He also was Kevin Harvick's podcast this week. Did you guys listen to it?
I did not. I keep forgetting Kevin Harvick has a podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, essentially, he just kind of went through, what it's like to, come to America, and he had a couple.
They made a whole movie about that.
What?
They made a whole movie about coming to America. Never mind. It's an Eddie Murphy movie from the 80s. Never mind.
For what it's worth, even with the DNF at Vegas, he is 14th in the standings, 7 points out of a playoff spot.
That's pretty damn good. As stacked as the Xfinity field is, let's talk about that. Sammy Smith in a JRM car, who won this race last year, was running 14th all day. The Xfinity field is stacked. And Mans is learning on the fly, drinking through a fire hose at full bore and doing it. I mean, seriously. And it's incredible because this was something he brought up on Kevin Harvick's podcast, is the amount of data that NASCAR has compared to supercars is night and day. And that is a lot to take in mentally during your week, much less getting in the car and actually driving the car that you have very little experience in against the second highest level of stock car racing, against guys who do this every week and have been doing this every week. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. He also dropped his first F-bomb that I've heard him ever say since he's been in NASCAR on Kevin Harvick's podcast. So shout out to that. Hell yeah. Dudes hear that and say hell yeah.
Just for reference on Shane's point standings. Some guys
who's he ahead of?
So just ahead of him, 13th is Sieg, Alfredo is 12th, Parker Kligerman's 11th, Sammy Smith 10th, Jones 9th, Allgaier 8th, teammate AJ Allmendinger is 7th.
Okay, cool. So who's he ahead of?
So the top 6 doesn't really matter. He is ahead of Jeremy Clements, Parker Retzlaff. He's ahead of Sam Mayer and Jeb Burke. Sam Mayer's 24th. Sam Mayer's 24th in points. Josh Williams, his teammate Josh Williams, is 30th in points.
That's because he's bad.
So yeah, I mean, it's not. He's like
okay. He's doing what I thought he would. Essentially,
he's doing. I don't know. I think he's doing better than what I thought he would. Because you look at guys like Jeremy Clement. Who'd you say? Jeremy Clements, Parker Retzlaff, Jeb Burton, and Josh Williams. All those guys, at least in my mind,
And
we're
Brennan
all
Poole and
gonna-
Ryan Ellis, for what it's worth. Blaine Perkins.
not them as okay. Well, not them as much, but those 4 guys I just mentioned, those were all guys I would imagine would be contending for a playoff spot right around the bubble, right? And I thought Shane was going to be a step behind him. And I thought it was going to take a win for Shane to get in the playoffs. And his racecraft and his patience and his just racing IQ is at least going to give him a fighting chance against those guys. And we're at race 4.
Yeah,
I think there's something to be said about that.
I would love to clarify.
He's doing better than I expected.
Yeah,
he would be right now.
I'd like to clarify what I meant by he's doing what I expected. He's running how I expect him to. So like him running before he blew up at Vegas, he was running around 20th. Him running for the most part of the day in the 15th to 20th area in Phoenix until like kind of carnage started happening and he was able to just avoid it. That is pretty much what I expected out of him, at least at this exact point in the season. And it would increase, or he would start moving up that ladder. His finishes are exceeding my expectations because I felt like with where he was going to be running, he would be in the carnage, and not through any lack of racecraft or anything, just because that's how it is. But his racecraft has been such that despite all that, he is in the carnage. He is where it is, and he's still avoiding it.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of the criticism around SVG in Chicago was people tried to discount it because, he didn't, it was a clean race and he didn't have double file restarts to deal with. He didn't have to deal with the normal chaos that is NASCAR. And so far, he's run 2 super speedways, done exceptional at both of them. He made some mistakes at Daytona, but you know what? He rallied home for a decent finish. Vegas, he never had a shot, right?
Yeah.
And then here we are at Phoenix. I just told you about how terrible the apron and the dog leg on the restarts are. How terrible, how chaotic that is, and how much that devalues a racing driver, in my opinion. And that was every opportunity for a guy as inexperienced as Shane Van Gisbergen is at this to get caught up in someone else's mess, get put in a position that he doesn't want to be in, get used up, and he didn't do it. And he navigated it perfectly and was able, at the end of the race, he was able to get into a position where he could be aggressive and be, instead of on defense just trying to ride around, he could be on offense. And I think it can't be stated enough how good he's doing right now.
Agreed.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's all for the SVG report. I think they're off next week, right? And then
what?
The next SVG report is going to be when he sweeps the weekend at Coda.
Oh yeah, it is Coda. I was like, wait, Martinsville, we're going to be there. That's cool. He's not sweeping the weekend.
I will say this. I still think for him to make it, it's going to take a win in the playoffs.
I think that's likely.
Just because I won't list all the names, but other than Kligerman and Alfredo in front of him, the top 10 is the 2 Gibbs cars, the 2 RCR cars, the 2 SHR cars, 3 JRM cars, and AJ Allmendinger. That's the top 10. So now you're fighting
Sam Mayer to win.
You're fighting for 2 spots, and Sam Mayer is 24th in points right now. I think Sam Mayer is going to win a race. So you're really fighting Alfredo and Parker Kligerman and Jeremy Clements for a spot. And not saying that I think Shane's a worse driver than them. I just think they're, at this point, while Shane is still getting up to speed on the ovals, they're more well-rounded and have a chance to get farther ahead of him, to where it'll be way easier path if he can just win one of the road courses.
Well, here's the thing. I think you are right, but I am going to point this out. we saw a SH car and a junior motorsports car miss the playoffs last year on just
true.
points alone. So
This is true, but
I think
that same
that's
SHR car is 4th right now in points. That
yeah,
he's not missing this year.
But I'm just saying.
No, I get what
know,
you're saying. Anything can
just
happen.
as an example, yeah. But yes, like I said, Coda next week. Or not next week. The next race for Shane. It'll be his first Cup race of the season. And then obviously the Xfinity. We finally get to see the all-out brawl of the century. Logan Paul and Mike Tyson, no. Shane Van Gisbergen and AJ Allmendinger at Coda. Let's fucking go.